Vaya climbs into the tree, reaches into the knapsack, and pulls out her book. She doesn't stay in the tree. She returns down to the far end of the tree, far and away from the city, kind of looking out onto green pastures, and begins to write. Her coping mechanism of writing has shifted from childhood do-gooders, very two-dimensional characters that are only ever good and only ever defeat evil and would never fail and would never change and would only ever conquer the dragon. Her years serving, her years of just slaving away, and then her years of homelessness have hardened her in a lot of ways to the idea that good ever happens. Now, small acts of kindness definitely exist, maybe even miracles from time to time. She's been known to pray, not really to a stare. She feels no need for order. She flirts with the idea of praying to Malchus because all she's ever known is chaos. Well, that's not true. Not all she's ever known. Early on, there was strict order that probably turned her away from a stare. And living just on the streets for 2 years I think that has introduced chaos. And at this point in time, it's probably Stockholm syndrome for chaos. Like it's all she sees now. And today's story is a continuation, and it delves into a ongoing adventure, diving deep into dwarven territory, both through the forest and underground, and ultimately will lead to a rebellion within the dwarven kingdom, a breaking up of the royal dwarven families, the 9 royal families, and ultimately leading to the disillusionment of all dwarven kingdoms, with the idea that maybe the people will be free and not live under royalty, but, things rarely play out how we would love them to. Now this adventurer is dining in the fallen halls of the halls of the fallen kings, sitting where they would have once sat. Very disrespectful. This would be very disrespectful, except for some of the dwarves that she had gathered to begin the rebellion were around her, and mostly were the ones that filled the hall. So symbolically, she is sitting in the place where the royal family sit, of the 9. Maybe this isn't seen as disrespectful. Maybe this is seen as breaking the dynamic of us versus them into one free people. The book delves a little bit into, it's more of like a, not a monologue, a rhetoric, I guess it's written like kind of as a monologue, or what is it called when you're like Plato would write out conversations people would have to push a specific idea. I'm going to be able to think of that in like 20 minutes, and then I'm just going to randomly say the word and just like stare at the camera, and I hope you put it right here. Dialectic. Maybe it's written in the form of a dialectic. about no true kings, or not, well, no king or no individual rises above the needs of the other. Very, very new agey, very progressive, very not of its time, kind of like a forward thinking. She quoted this term, democracia, I think it's Latin. I'm not really sure. Of the people, for the people, by the people, something, I don't know. Anyways, so she's deep into thought as some crunches, or deep into writing as that fox from her childhood, the fox that would run around. It was always just a fox, right? The sounds in the forest, the sounds creeping up on you, that's not. You're in a safe spot. This is your tree. If anything, it's just your friend Taylor. He's back from his tour with the carnival. She lifts her head and says, "Hey, Taylor," without even looking. And the next thing she hears is the swinging of something heavy. And then wet. Just wetness and coldness. She wakes up in a bed. It's however long later. We can roll a die if that makes you feel comfortable. If that brings some joy to the tragedies of Vaya's life and the awful things that had happened to her just now. Okay. Oh, that's a D20. That's way too long. Where's my D6, babe? D6 is a cube. Wouldn't a cube feel like it would be a D4? No, of course not. That's because you associate square with the word cube. And a cube is so much more than a square. 5. She's out for 5 fucking days. Probably not out entirely. There'd be moments of consciousness. She wakes up. She sees someone sitting in the cuck chair. She falls back asleep. She wakes up but doesn't open her eyes, and she can feel someone dabbing her head with a rag. They're changing her bandages. She wakes up to them wrapping stuff around her, and takes 5 days before she's actually aware enough to have a conversation. Long enough, 5 days before she can really keep her eyes open for longer than 30 seconds. 5 days until she can actually focus on the cuck chair and see her friend Taylor sitting there. And she's in a nice room, not a room she'd seen before. Not in a tavern she'd been in. Not in the lone inn. Very nice drapes over the windows. Very nice bed. Very comfortable. Dimly lit. Smells of smoke and just human experiences. Taylor. Vaya, I'm here. He dabs water on her lips and then also on her forehead, just to help cool her down. Maybe it's sitting outside, so a breeze catches it. Condensation causes it to cool down. She just fails to speak, fails to conjure any words, and You're in Martha's Vineyard. It's dinner time. 5 days since I found you. She stares off at the wall. You were by the tree, head bloody, legs bloody, torso bloody, cuts, head nearly in two. And I brought you here. Vaya reaches up. Oh, fuck. Not like actually physically in two, but like when you can see a little bit of the scalp, like when it's... They don't have... Would you have sutures at this point in time? How old are sutures? Or stitches? Sutures. Thousands of years. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I imagine a doctor can take some incredibly fine. I imagine you just have to wrap it up. Most things are probably wrapped up. But if you're lucky, maybe there's a doctor who can take very fine silk string, basically. Maybe there's... People fish. Maybe there's a way to make fishing string. And then maybe you're sewn up with that. But she reaches up and however it's closed, her wound feels closed and like it's beginning the healing process. But she's also like hair up, like wrapped, just a mess. Just absolutely. Her eyes again disassociated. Like looks as if the life has been taken from her. And she's got other bandages on her arms and legs and torso. Basically left for dead. A day later, I was hoping it would be longer, but, you know, money is important to people. I guess to all of us, really. The maitre d', the lady, the leading lady, the owner, the manager, the one and only, the star of the show. Not really, but the owner-operator of Martha's Vineyard comes into the room and is very blunt and says, look, your friend Taylor, she's smoking a hand-rolled cigarette, your friend Taylor, he's got you paid up for 2 more days. But after that, adios. How much did he pay? This is an expensive room. This room's a moneymaker. It's multiple gold a day. She thinks back. So little trouble she had in that tavern. Drinking away the afternoon. There was a bard that had stopped by singing songs of adventure and excitement of a red dragon who conquered the countryside, destroying all until she met her end at the hand of 3 brothers. This bard went on weaving tales of glory, of islands disappearing, of demons crawling out of the earth, of frozen adventurers. She just had very few. For a homeless lady, she had a lot of problems, right? But like compared to being wounded in a brothel, like life seemed so good and so simple so many hours ago. Well, now hundreds of hours, like 100 hours ago, right? 275, 3 days. Like 150, 160 hours ago. But now to go back out there, I mean, she had asked about it, but Taylor didn't see a book. There was no book there. Her book was gone. Her spear was gone. Any scrap pieces of armor she'd been able to raise her AC with ever so slightly were gone. No 2-3 silver coins left. They were lucky enough not to find that singular gold coin that she kept on her. She must have packed it away in her clothes, just in the right spot that nobody saw it. She wasn't going to give up this coin for another night, for another half a day. She says, I'll be out in 2 days. The maitre d', I should really Google this word, the owner-operator, Plaza Jessica says, or, we'll have a couple of girls that stay in the back. We've got some bunk beds, some hammocks. You've got a drawer to put your stuff. Maybe you don't have to leave. They're like immediately like, no, bitch, do you know what just happened to me? The fact that you're offering me this, maybe in your head is some type of kindness, but to me, oh my God, what are you? Just like, again, disassociates. Like, usually a very strong woman, but right now she's incredibly vulnerable in the worst place she's been. She just shakes her head now and just says 2 days. Those 2 days come. She probably sleeps 20 hours both days. Is probably only up for 4. One or two of the girls that work there, the women that work there, stopped by, had a little chit chat with her. Very nice women. Very nice ladies. Helped change her bandage. Just, human connection and conversation was just nice and part of the healing process. They told a joke. She chuckled, laughter. Great medicine. But the morning of that, we'll say 2 days, 2 nights. So the morning of that third day, she's limping towards the door. I would say she packed everything up, but I think she has nothing, very little. There's probably that knapsack in the tree. Maybe there's some trinkets in there. But she had her book in her hand, so the book wasn't there. The book is gone. And she puts her hand on the door and she looks back. I think strategically, the owner-operator lady, she is, standing there exposed, kind of just at the beginning of one of the hallways that leads in one of the directions with one of the multiple of the bedrooms, just smoking a cigarette. She's not going to ask again, but she's there to accept, the resume if it gets slid across the table. Vaya releases her hand from the door and turns back and says, I have nowhere to go. Of course you don't, darling. Of course you don't. Now you do. Now you do.